listening to Rockford's only year-round show devoted to local high school and college sports. This is the Stateline Sports Hour on News Talk 1440 WROK.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner here on the Stateline Sports Hour. Good to have you along. We hope that you're enjoying your day. And right now we're going to talk about one of the newest sports. It's not new because it's been created for a long time, but in high schools and colleges, it's one of the hottest sports in the nation right now. It's called lacrosse, and it's a great sport. With us right now, we have the Rockford Razorbacks high school coach, Robert White. And Robert, good to have you on today.
Morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you look back on lacrosse. It's back in the day. I think the Native Americans and the American Indians created that sport. Jim Brown, I always heard about from Syracuse, the big pro football player for the Cleveland Browns. He was a name. There was the Gaither brothers or Gauther brothers out of Canada. But now lacrosse has taken on a whole new life, especially in high school sports.
Yeah, it's the fastest growing sport there is right now, and it's been around for a long time, and it's just starting to get some recognition. Starting out, obviously, as you said, with the American Indians, and then, really broke out in the United States on the East Coast. That's typically where it started, hung out, and then it jumped over to the West Coast in California. Now it's actually making its way back here into the Midwest.
What do you think is behind some of the growth in lacrosse? Obviously it's a sport, like we said, it's been around for a while. So, I guess why now? What's driving kids towards that sport, do you think?
I think what's happening is a couple things. Number one, some of these teams in high school at the level, they get so many kids on their team that, you're out there practicing for a number of months, and there's just so many guys on your bench that don't get a chance to play, but they're really, really good athletes. And so, they're looking for some kind of, avenue where they can actually participate in something and really excel. But the second thing is that lacrosse is a unique sport that, if you look at a certain player for basketball, you can see a really tall guy or a football guy who's really built. Lacrosse actually has a position for everybody on the field. No matter how tall you are, how big you are, if you're athletic, you've got hand-eye coordination, we can find a spot for you on the field. And we're taking some of these athletes that kind of been lost at the end of these benches, of the football team or the baseball team, and giving them an opportunity to excel. And, it's really wonderful for all these kids to have another shot.
I keep hearing big news. Ohio just this past week sanctioned it as a sport. They're excited about that. Colleges, I saw 3 or 4 college lacrosse programs, so there's opportunities for kids to go on there. How do you see Illinois falling out in this process? What do you think the future is going to be for high school lacrosse for our area especially?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen, actually. They're up to about 90 teams. Right now they're playing kind of their own league. They're not really recognized by the IHSA, but there already is a league. Last step of kind of being recognized by the state. That'll give them a little more exposure. We'll get a little more TV coverage in that. But the growth of the sport is not going to hinge on the state kind of giving it its blessing. We're actually a club. We're not playing with the high schools. They're kind of a different level. But the clubs are springing up everywhere. The high schools continue to spring up. There's some kids who play out east. There's some kids on Virginia's roster and Johns Hopkins roster, and they've come out of Illinois. And it's because the IHSA has sponsored it. It's because the teams in the local areas have really, built this up from the ground, from the youth programs all the way up to high school. And, it'll be kind of the cherry out to have the IHSA recognize them. The sport's taking off with or without them.
What's the scene like in this area if something like that were to happen? Is there enough, interest, I suppose, to get several high school programs going, or just the one right now? Is that kind of where the level of interest is in this area?
Yeah, where the start, several years ago, Belvedere actually took on a team, a co-op team. Belvedere North and Belvedere were together, and I was the coach of that team. And that went on for a number of years, and we weren't able to really expand the program just because of the limited numbers we had. So I eventually resigned from that position to start this Rockford Club. And the reason I did it was because I wanted to give kids outside of Belvedere a chance to play. And, right now I've got kids from 9 different schools playing on my team from the area. So I think in our area, we need to pull the numbers, and we need to get kids from all over the place, get some exposure. We're trying to get into some of the high schools and get some clinics and things. But I think eventually, if we can pull kids from all these different schools, then the schools will eventually be able to take it back to themselves and start their own programs.
I got an email after you put that Twitter out there yesterday that you were going to be on the show. And the Twitter was from a friend of yours. He said he started you out, Brian Huey, who was the AD over at Belvedere. He says you asked him who got him started in coaching. Is that a true story?
That's true. I was actually a former player in college, a club player. Moved back there, and there was no lacrosse, and they happened to start a program out there. And I went out to go see if I could help out that program, and ended up being their first head coach. So that is a true story.
I know he likes to brag about that stuff, don't you?
Yeah, so our program, started out, a couple of years ago, we were about 10 guys in a field with a net I had built, and we were playing together. And, we started a high school program last year, just a JV program. And this is our kind of first full year. We had a high school varsity program, a JV program. But the key to our program, and I think the success of lacrosse, not only here but everywhere, is we've got a youth program. We're running some programs through the YMCA right now. Some free and paid clinics, and then we have a youth team. Matter of fact, some of the guys are in the car right now on their way up to Wisconsin playing a tournament, are U11 and U13 guys. And so I think that's the key to lacrosse. These young kids who are excited about the sport and have an opportunity to play somewhere around here.
As you're getting rolling with this, how has the team performed? What's the talent level like around here?
You know what? The talent level, we're having a rough time only because a lot of these clubs out in the suburbs, and that's typically who we're playing. There's a league out in the suburbs here, and then one a little bit further down south. They've had their youth programs established, and they've been around for a while. Our record this year, we played 14 games, we won 4. But I'll tell you what, from where we were our first day of practice, I would say maybe 75% of our guys had not ever played lacrosse. If I had a videotape of our first day of practice or our last game, I'd say it was a successful season regardless of that record that was up there. And, now I go to these youth practices and I see these young kids with the sticks in their hands, and I think to myself, geez, when these guys get to me, what a difference that'll make. So I think that's the key to it, is getting the sticks in the kids' hands early here, get them start playing. And, what's happening for us is that, we started off kind of as a fringe sport where people heard about us and didn't really know much about it. And now we're starting to get the captains of the hockey teams and the captains of the basketball teams and football teams who are bringing some, themselves to the sport, but their friends, and some legitimacy to that. And we're starting to really get some good athletes out there that, really didn't have a chance to play anything, but are finding a place with us.
If Matt Parker from Rockford Schools would call you and say, hey, we want to start a co-op team with our 4 schools, would you be for that, to get a high school going here in our area? I'm not putting any pressure on anybody. Just ask them one of those questions.
Well, as a matter of fact, we have someone from our group meeting with him next week, so we'll see what happens with that.
I'm good. Am I, Robert? Am I good on that stuff?
Yes. Like I said, our goal is to put as many sticks in as many kids' hands as we can. I mean, once we get the kids out there, I would say that our, the return rate, once they come out to one of our clinics or once they join one of our teams, it's really high. We don't lose kids. It's very exciting. It's very fun. It's got a little bit of the hitting from, football and hockey. It's got the high scoring. And, it's really a fan favorite as well. So once we get them, we don't lose them. We're just trying to find them.
How tough is it, for the kids coming out to kind of get the handle of all that with the stick and everything? That's always one of those sports. I felt like I've had good hand-eye coordination, but that's one of those sports that's always been intimidating to me because that just seems like that's tough to get a grasp on.
Yeah, it's different than any other sport. Typically you go out for a sport, you already know how to throw a ball and you know how to move with the ball, and so it's really hard and frustrating for some kids. But once we get you over that hump, and it takes not very long. For some of these kids who are good athletes, they pick it up quickly, and we can tell. Once they get going on that, it really takes off, and they're able to participate. Like I said, we had guys who started this year, and we started in maybe early March, guys who had never touched the stick before, ended up being starting players for me by the end of the year. And that's just in 1 year. So if we can get these kids for, when they're younger or have them for a year or two, it's really going to make a difference.
Some of the schools that are in the organization now, I'm not sure, the IHSLA or whatever they call it, the Lacrosse Association. Some schools are kind of hesitant about wanting the IHSA to take it over because of the expense. They'd have to make it varsity sport. Are you hearing a lot of that too, Robert?
Yeah, when I was the coach at Belvedere, that was the key. I mean, they needed to have a certain number of teams, and the number was 64. Once they got to 64, the IHSA would look at them. And now they're up to 90, and I think they're still a little hesitant. They've got control right now over the playoffs and their rosters and how they let this work. I think turning that control over to the IHSA, it may be a blessing to have this state tournament that's sanctioned, but it might be a little bit scary to them to kind of lose that control, and I think that's why they haven't done that yet.
When you talk about building the youth programs and things like that, how young are you starting out with that program right now?
Well, our YMCA programs are open to anybody, and we've got some that are free. We use softball, so there's no worry about the kids getting hit or anything, and we just teach them to catch and throw. We've had kids down, I think, 7 years old come out with us. Our youth teams, our U11 is as young as we go, and then we go up through high school. And then this summer, we're going to run some more programs. We have a summer league. It's kind of an in-house league, and this year we're going to try to open it up to our younger kids, have a younger division, and actually open up our high school one to a little bit older, have some of our former college players come back and play. Because some of these guys who have played for us, have gone through Belvedere or played for my program, are coming back, and these are the guys who are helping me coach. You know, I've got some assistant coaches that have played for me, and they're going to kind of be the ones that help out with this program. They want to give back to it because they enjoy playing so much. So,
you have to get equipment for this. Where does kids get equipment in our area from? Do they have to get on the internet and get it, or is there a place they can go to the local lacrosse shop?
Yeah, well, there's several ways to do it. I mean, our programs are set up right now. We've had a generous donation from the Alpine Bank. They were kind of forward-looking and wanted to help lacrosse get started in the area, so they helped us get some equipment. So for our starter programs, we actually have equipment for the kids to start in.
Nice.
But once you actually get into the sport, we want you to have your own gear, obviously, so we can travel and play. You can get stuff online, but Pete's Skate Shop is actually carrying some stuff at the Carlson Ice Arena now. That's where our home field used to be. We moved out of there, but he's got equipment and gear there, and you get to buy some of our apparel and he can help you get set up with getting gear if you need to.
Alpine Bank worked out perfectly, didn't it? Having Alpine involved.
yeah. Rob Funderburg is a big backer. I think he's got a lacrosse background, and he's really interested in seeing the sport grow. So he's been really beneficial to us in helping us get this started.
So if people are interested in having their kids play, how should they go about getting a hold of you and maybe getting enrolled in the program?
Rockford Lax, LAX. You can find us on Facebook or our webpage. You can send me an email there and get a hold of me. I get several emails a week from people who just stumble upon us, and this is kind of growing just by word of mouth right now. So if we really get out there and get into these schools and things, I'm sure it will take off. But you can find us there. Otherwise, if you're interested in the summer programs, the YMCA would be a place to check with. We're going to have one or two over the summer here. So if you've never played and you're at all interested, that's the place to go. We'll put a stick in your hand, we'll get you started, and hopefully next year you'll come and join one of our teams.
And we have stories on there that has links to that, and we'll do podcasts with this as well, so you'll be able to find that information as well. Before we let you go, Robert, we had somebody call in and want to ask you a question. You okay with that?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, good. Dr. Mike, can you ask Robert your question, please?
Yeah, my question applies to the female side. Am I mistaken or not that Northwestern University's women's lacrosse team has been NCAA champions a couple of times?
Yeah, that is correct. Girls lacrosse is really, really big. We were just at a tournament down in Washington, Illinois, and there was an entire bracket of girls lacrosse. Most of the high schools have a girls program as well. We don't have enough of an interest around here yet, so the girls are actually playing on my team. And the difference between the boys and the girls lacrosse is there's a lot of checking and hitting in the boys lacrosse, but not in the girls.
Right, because I thought that Northwestern's women's team won back-to-back NCAA championships a couple of years ago or so.
Yeah, they're very good. Matter of fact, I had a girl who played for me at Belvedere on the boys' team who ended up going to a college and playing girls lacrosse then, so she kind of made the transition over.
Yeah.
So we take, we're not a co-ed team per se. We're a boys lacrosse team, but we have girls on our team right now, and we would encourage girls to come out and learn to play with us as well.
Thanks, Dr. Mike. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
So, hey, there's some interest from everybody in there, Robert.
Sure, yeah. It's growing, and like I said, I hate to use the old Cubs saying it's going to happen, so it's just a matter of time.
Well, don't use that. I want to see it work. All right? Hey, you know what? I was talking to you about, I think it was Syracuse, where those two brothers played out. What was their name? Gary and, you know who I'm talking?
The Gate brothers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, weren't they they were kind of like rock legends for lacrosse for a while. It kind of helped the sport grow, I think.
They did, actually. They not only that, they have their own line of lacrosse equipment now, and they actually changed the rules because of those guys, because I don't know if you remember, those were the guys that would jump from behind the net and end up stuffing it in the net.
Sweet. Can you do that, Robert? Could you do that?
No, they actually changed the rules now. You're no longer allowed to do that. So
wow.
They changed the game, but they changed the rules for these guys.
And, you look at that, they also have a major indoor lacrosse league. I think it's still going on. The indoor lacrosse is really well. I've watched that before. They play them in like arena, like they do arena football. You ever been to one of those games?
I've not. I've been to the lacrosse championships before, and I've been to some of the box lacrosse, higher leagues. But, it's amazing. It's the one sport where the professional league doesn't have as much interest as the college or the high school. That's really where it is, that NCAA Final Four is, they're getting 35, 40,000 people now to watch lacrosse games. It's just amazing.
So you're going to keep us updated on how things go, won't you, Robert? I follow you on Twitter, and I keep updated, and possibly sometime we'll be talking about Rockford team going to the state championships. That'd be cool.
I hope so. That's this weekend, actually. Today's the state championship for the club, so wish we could be there. But, we had a couple kids perform in the All-Star game this weekend, which is an honor for us. Kids who had never played lacrosse a few years ago around the field, kids who had been playing since they were 6 and 7 years old, and it was really cool to see down at Benedictine University. Before
I let you go, tell us some of those kids from the local area that you used this year that have had a good year.
Tommy Schmidt, he's a Boylan Jr. He was our defensive representative down at the All-Star game. Hadn't played until 2 years ago. And then Nick Bowen, actually, he was one of my players out at Belvedere. Ended up making the transition over to us when the Belvedere program folded. And he was our offensive representative at the All-Star game this weekend.
So do you think it's a big deal that a state like Ohio has added it and other states are looking at that someday that'll be that way? I know there's pros and cons, but I really think it would be a good thing for you guys to be a state-sanctioned sport. Oh, I totally agree. I mean, it'll give you, it puts some legitimacy to it, and it'll make people recognize, like I said, we're kind of that fringe sport right now. Nobody really knows who we are or what we're about, but, once the IHSA puts you on the map and people start looking at you, it'll make a difference. Robert, thanks so much for taking time out. We hope things will go well for lacrosse in our area. And guys like you, the founders of it, it's a key part of the whole situation. Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We've been talking to Robert White, the Rockford Razorbacks lacrosse coach. We don't get too many people call up for questions like that. No, that's pretty cool. Good, yeah. Yeah, one of the biggest sports growing in the United States. We're going to take a time out. We'll wrap it up here on the Stateline Sports Hour here on News Talk 1440 WROK.